I feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me.
All right, the connection is good to go, and we are live. So, what is going on, everybody? And welcome back to episode 9 of the 2-on-0 Hockey Show. And, wow, it's crazy that we're up to 9 episodes already. But, yeah, I mean, let me just do my quick little intro really quick. Andrew Marisi, Carter Bentavenga, your two co-hosts with nothing standing in the way of covering the greatest game in the world, being hockey. I'm getting good at that, aren't I? I'm getting good at that intro.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Our first few times I actually had to write it down just to like make sure that I knew what I was saying, but I feel like I've gotten the repetition down at this point. So, Andrew, my friend, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. I worked my first game back with the Islanders in pretty much, I think, over a year. So I had a good time there. I mean, obviously Rangers didn't do that well, but I mean, had to cheer for the Islanders, of course. But how about you? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was just fantastic. It was amazing. You want to know why it was amazing, Andrew? Because the
Go ahead.
Islanders,
Yeah.
the Islanders not only beat the Rangers again. I know you don't want to hear that, but it happened. The Islanders managed to clinch a playoff spot, and that's where we're going to get into our first topic here today. As always, we're going to start with the Eastern Division playoff race. So currently, Pittsburgh Penguins first place with 71 points, Washington Capitals with 69 in second, New York Islanders bringing up third with 67, and then it's Boston and the Rangers right now battling for that last spot. Boston with 66 and the Rangers with 58. Andrew, I mean, we're going to get into this later in the show, but there's a scenario tonight where the Bruins can clinch a playoff spot. Do you think the Bruins are playing the Devils tonight, Rangers are playing the Washington Capitals? We're going to get into those two games later in the show, but if you had to guess, do you think the Bruins clinch tonight?
I would say so. Playing the team against, the Devils, who have just been, very bad this year, almost as bad as, Buffalo. And, just the way Boston's, been playing recently, 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. I don't see how they, don't at least get a point in this game.
I mean, unfortunately for you, I would have to agree. I think Boston's just playing too well right now. Like you said, they're on a 3-game winning streak of their own. They've been hot in their last 10 games, and see, it's weird because it's not like the Rangers are going to miss the playoffs because they're not playing well. I mean, the Rangers, arguably in any other division, I mean, I could check the standings really quickly, but I don't think the Rangers would miss the playoffs in any other division. I'm pretty sure it's just
they would be tied with Nashville for the 4th spot, but other than that, they would be in every other playoff.
All right, so I mean, realistically speaking, I think that I don't know. I would consider this a good year for the Rangers. I mean, I don't know what you think. I want to get your thoughts on this, but personally, I mean, I think the Rangers are playing with house money at this point. I don't think they were really I don't think the goal for them was to make the playoffs this year. Like, yeah, if they made the playoffs, that would have been great. It would have given their younger guys some much needed playoff experience. But at the end of the day, I think the goal is just to really develop that younger talent. And you really saw some of the young talent on the Rangers, like, specifically speaking, Adam Fox, taking a big step in his sophomore season. So, what do you think? Do you think the goal for the Rangers was to make the playoffs? Do you think that do you think they're ahead of schedule in the rebuild? Because I think I know your answer to that, but
I mean, I think their plan for this year was to make the playoffs, but I don't think it was like, a necessity. Again, you mentioned before, it was like, okay, if we made it, great, that's good, more playoff experience. And if they didn't, they would have probably been in fifth place, which they are right now, and which they're most likely going to finish. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of just like a weird thing where it was like, yeah, we made it, or oh, we didn't make it. Okay, one more year, and then we should be able to make it in. Obviously, you said Adam Fox this year, Lafreniere stepping up recently, Capo Caco, Filipino, Zach Jones making his recent debut, Morgan Barron making his debut, and the list just goes on and on for the Rangers' young players who, still need to develop a little bit. I would say Adam Fox is developed right now, but I mean every other young talent still needs to develop in their system.
I would agree. And I mean, if you're looking at the way that obviously Adam Fox has been, I would say the most notable out of that list that you just mentioned. But I think Kako looks better than he did last year. I don't think Kako was a very good defensive player last year, and the points might not necessarily be there for a guy like Capo Caco, but I think he's gotten a lot better with his two-way game. And like you mentioned before, Lafreniere is playing much better. Barron and Jones made their NHL debuts pretty recently, I would say. And I mean, even a guy like Vitaly Kravtsov, he made his debut a month ago, maybe at this point.
It wasn't he. Actually, yeah, it was about a month ago. I think it was against Buffalo.
And he's already scored a goal, which I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but we were there for that. Granted, I'm sure you were more happy to see that than I was.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. See, it's interesting to see where the Rangers are, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Rangers didn't have the greatest start to the season. I feel like if this was an 82 game season, first of all, I mean, we wouldn't even be talking about playoffs at this point. I mean, actually, well, if this was a regular season, we'd be about into the second round of the playoffs by now, but that's beside the point. If this was an 82 game season, do you think the Rangers would be in the playoffs? Do you think the conversation would be different, or would you still give that last spot to the Boston Bruins?
If we're talking about the same divisions and everything as there are right now,
Yeah, same everything. The only thing that would be different is just a longer schedule.
I don't know. It's raw. It's tough to say just because I feel like, Boston and the Rangers have been so neck and neck this year, just especially this past month. It would kind of be hard, to decide, if they would. I mean, I would have liked, to see them play an 82 game season, just to see if, there was a chance the Rangers could make it. But I mean, personally, I don't think they would have made it just the way Boston, has been playing past, decade or something like that. They've always been a Stanley Cup contender. They made the Cup 2 years ago, I believe, against St. Louis. And last year, I think, getting out in the second round against Tampa. So, I mean, they're still a good playoff team. They're just still a good team overall. So, I mean, I think they probably would have gotten that fourth spot, but I think it would have been much closer.
Yeah, I could see that happening. And see, I don't know what the record split with the other teams in the division is, but I mean, say we did play an 82 game season and it was still just playing like intra-divisional games. I mean, I think the Rangers might have a better shot than you're giving them credit for because I mean, I don't know what the Rangers record splits are off the top of my head or anything, but I think the only team that they've really struggled to do anything against is, ironically enough, the Islanders. Like, I think they have a winning record against the Capitals. I
Yeah,
believe
they have
do.
they have a winning record against Capitals. I believe they only lost, I think, 2 or 3 games against the Capitals. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's one of the two. If I were to guess, I would say 2. But yeah, I mean, against the Capitals this year, they've been very, very good. It's been very, very defensive games. Most of them. I believe there was 1 or 2 games, where it was, kind of like a blowout game, if you could say so. But I mean, yeah, they've been playing really good against the Capitals. If they somehow face the Capitals in the playoffs, I don't think they would have done that good just because we all know regular season hockey is very much different than, playoff hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And speaking of playoff hockey, I mean, I just want to touch up a little bit on the Islanders making the playoffs. This is the third straight season that the Islanders have made the playoffs, and let me just say, I mean, I know a lot of people really just credit the fact that the Islanders are even here to the fact that Barry Trotz is the Islanders coach, but at the end of the day, I mean, it takes a strong mentality and a strong group of guys to buy into a system as strongly as the Islanders have. And to go from a team that was expected to contend for nothing but a lottery spot, and now the goal has changed from draft position to playoff position in just a span of, I mean, technically it was only 1 year given that Barry Trotz made the playoffs with the Islanders in his first season behind the bench. But I mean, as a Ranger fan, is this impressive to see for the Islanders, or what do you kind of attribute to their success?
Yeah, no, I think it's, very, very impressive. I remember when I got interviewed for my Islander job, they actually asked me, what the Islanders meant to me. And, I was being honest. I was like, hey, listen, I'm a Ranger fan, blah, 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 blah. But I was like, nah, and this was last season I got interviewed for. But, basically what I said was, but if I'm going to be honest, it was kind of, very nice to see what happened with the Islanders. Like, everyone doubted them from the start, and, they didn't. They were, competing for that playoff spot. They wanted to prove to people, hey, just because we lost John Tavares, our captain, heart of our soul of our team, doesn't mean we're going to be a bad team. Like, as long as we have the certain needs that they have, like, they'll be a very good playoff team, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And I know, I mean, I've heard it from you and a couple of other our Ranger fan friends in the past that the Islanders are only good because of Barry Trotz. I think he's a big reason for it. But I mean, I mean, let's be honest, he's not out there scoring goals and making plays or anything. So I know you're probably like in your head right now, you're thinking like, dude, this couldn't be any further from the truth. But I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. I might be biased because I am an Islander fan, but I mean, it really is something to see the Islanders buy into Barry Trotz's system. And, I mean, if you're looking at certain players in the lineup, I think everybody's really gone from a team that never really knew how to play defense to a defensive juggernaut. And one player that I want to talk about just so happens to be your favorite on the team, Adam Pelech, baby. Let's go. Best defenseman in New York, right, bud?
Yeah. Okay.
He agrees with me. He just doesn't want to admit it.
No, not even close.
I don't know, Andrew. I've heard you say it before.
When?
I might have to wait a few weeks to get him to admit that, but
Yeah.
although
Just go on. Just go on.
we did have a bet going last year where in the cup you had to get a Pelech jersey. That didn't happen.
Didn't happen though. Thank God.
Although, is this the first place we're going to announce it? Are we going to get a repeat of that bet this time around?
No.
Are we going to get
no
that
way.
live on the air?
No way.
No.
It's not happening.
If anything, I figure you'd want to do it this year, if anything, because I don't know. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before. I don't know if I see the Islanders getting past teams like the Capitals and the Penguins.
Whatever.
I'm surprised.
Just go on with whatever you were about to say.
Well, no, I mean, with guys like Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock, mainly the whole Islander defense for that matter, and I mean, he's really gotten the forwards to buy in too, which is massive because let's be honest, I mean, you can have one of the best defensive cores in the league, but at the end of the day, if you don't have playing their position, playing that kind of third defenseman kind of role, you're not going to go anywhere in terms of your team defense. And it's really built an identity that I don't think the Islanders have had for a long, long time. I think if you're looking at the Islanders as a team throughout the I would say like late 2000s, early 2010s, I think they were always looked at as like a fringe playoff team. Like, yeah, they could make it. I don't think they will, but I mean, if they make it, I don't expect them to go very far because they don't have an identity. They don't have anything to, kind of rally the troops based on, and now they do. And it's really something to watch because, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to be biased when I say this, but I think this is the best chance the Isles have at bringing home a Stanley Cup since the late 80s. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I think it's that they definitely have a very, very good shot at winning the cup. Especially you said the past 40 years or whenever it was in the 80s. that was, their dynasty. That was the Islanders, basically, their history. And, again, you mentioned, they really haven't been that good of a playoff team or just that good of a team in most recent years. But in the past, three years or so, they've kind of proven to be like, hey, we can do some damage in the playoffs, and we will if we want. And we saw it last year, them making it to the Eastern Conference Final, losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning, the eventual Stanley Cup champions. But I mean, they're a good team. They're a good team. There's no doubting that in my mind.
Yeah, and I think like the entire mentality surrounding the team has also changed. Not even just under Barry Trotz, but under Lou Lamoriello as well. I think again, I mean, taking it back to the 2010s anyway, with Garth Snow and briefly Doug Weight with behind the bench and Jack Capuano for the majority of the 2010s. I think the goal was just to make the playoffs. I don't want to say this because I don't know if I want to think this way, given that they were executives of a professional hockey team, but I don't think they really cared how far that they got in the playoffs. And I think that kind of, like you would see it in terms of how Garth Snow would handle some of the trade deadlines. Like there have been some years where the Islanders were pretty deep into the playoff picture. Like it was almost guaranteed they were going to make it. And at the trade deadline, he wouldn't really do anything. He would just opt to run with the squad that he had. I don't know if he was scared to make trades that could improve the group, or I don't know if maybe he wasn't confident in them. But I think the confidence now, Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz, I think, have a really high amount of confidence in this team. And I think it shows, especially with the Pajot trade and the Palmieri trade over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and you mentioned coaches, Capuano, Doug Weight, and all of them, and you mentioned them, not doing anything for the trade deadline. I feel like the trade deadline, it's kind of like it's really important, for teams, especially like the New York Islanders. I believe it was last year, we saw the Islanders acquire Pajot, and he's just been doing basically very, very good for them, over the past basically year at this point. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, when you don't really acquire, those trade deadline pieces, and, not most of the time, but, some teams, when they don't acquire them, sometimes they do good. But, sometimes they just, need that spark to their team, just another player of saying like, hey, you know what, we need to bring you to our system. We know you can fit our system, and, you can, definitely help us make a playoff spot. And, last year they did that with Pajot. This year they did that with Palmieri. So, obviously, they're hoping, those two players can definitely help them win a cup.
Yeah, I would say so. One last thing that I just want to point out before we get on to our next topic anyway. It's kind of nice to see the Islanders being like a big buyer at the trade deadline for once, because as I just mentioned with Garth Snow, like, yeah, he would go for like depth players. Like he would go for whether it's a depth forward or a depth defenseman, or I remember one year he got Michael Neuwirth from the Buffalo Sabres as a depth goaltender. I think it was all about depth for him. It never really mattered to get a big name player. And now with Lou Lamoriello, a lot of people have said that when he sees a team that he thinks has a shot to win, he will jump at the chance to make a big trade. And he's done that over the last couple of years. So nice to see the Islanders making some big moves. Hopefully we'll be able to see them. Hopefully for me anyway. I don't know about you, but hopefully see them make a fairly deep playoff run. I think they have the potential to, but it all matters with their goal scoring. So speaking of the playoffs, actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, but we're going to try and put together like a playoff special. So if you guys want to see that, maybe hop in the chat while we're live and give your predictions on who you think is going to advance in the playoffs. We're going to give ours as well. The date and who's going to be on the show is still kind of up in the air, but yeah, we're gonna try and work something out soon, and you get to see us look like complete clowns on the air. So that's always fun, right?
Always.
But anyway, we're gonna move on here. And tonight, the New York Rangers are taking on the Washington Capitals. And Andrew, we mentioned this before with the Rangers. I don't want to say I'm gonna say the odds are against them. I'm gonna put it that way. I think we were talking about it before. The Bruins are playing the Devils, who, let's face it, I mean, the Devils haven't played their best hockey as of late, so it seems as if the Bruins are in a good position to at least get a point. The Rangers right now, they're in a position to control only what they can control. Am I right or am I wrong in saying that?
No, you're kind of right. Basically, what the Rangers need to do to keep their postseason hopes alive, they would need to win every single game, every the rest of their games, which is against the Capitals tonight, the Capitals Wednesday night, Thursday night against Boston, and then Saturday afternoon against Boston. They would need to win every single one of those games in regulation, and Boston would have to lose every game in regulation. And Boston's playing New Jersey tonight, New Jersey tomorrow, Rangers Thursday for Saturday, Islanders next Monday, and the Capitals next Tuesday. Is that going to happen? No way it's going to happen. So basically, the Rangers are out of the playoffs, but I mean, it was a good season for them. Obviously, Artemi Panarin missed those 9 games. Mika Zibanejad for the first quarter, half of the year, was not doing good. There was speculation, it was due because of COVID, because he had it. He had COVID in the beginning of the season. And, that stuff could possibly mess you up, for a long time. And that's what a lot of Ranger fans, have been basically saying. That's why, the first half of the year, he wasn't that good. And, I think it was really after that Philly game, he kind of stepped up, the first Philly game where I believe he scored 6 points. But, yeah, I mean, it's been a good season for the Rangers. Igor Shesterkin obviously having another great year. This is technically his rookie year. He played a couple games last year for us. But, yeah, I mean, I really can't say much about him. It was fun to watch him this year, fun for them, to fight for that playoff spot. But, I mean, I think next year is kind of the year where it's make or break for them.
Yeah, I would say so. I actually want to point a few things out tonight for the Rangers and the Capitals game. This is coming from Samantha Pell, who covers the Washington Capitals for the Washington Post. And she put this on her Twitter about 40 minutes or so ago. She said, so just to recap, no Kuznetsov or Samsonov tonight for the Capitals. Both relate to a team function, and they're both out for disciplinary reasons. Ovechkin and Carlson are both game-time decisions with a lower body injury, and TJ Oshie is out due to a family matter. So that means that, I mean, you have 5 of your starters, 3 big forwards, 1 Norris caliber defenseman, and a goaltender who's really proven himself over the last, year and a half, I would say, to be one of the best young goalies in the NHL. So, Andrew, I'm going to ask you this as a Ranger fan. I'm assuming that, say all of those players are out tonight, say Ovechkin and Carlson don't play tonight because of their injuries. The Rangers have to be the favorite to win tonight's game, are they not?
I think they would probably have to be the favorite, even though the Rangers, I believe Trouba, Lindgren, and Kreider are all out for the Rangers tonight. And I'm not 100% who's starting. I believe it's Igor Shesterkin. If I can just check real quick. I'm like 99% sure he's starting. But, I mean, yeah, I would say this is basically a must, win game for the Rangers. They've been playing against, the Capitals good all year. We mentioned it before. I believe they only lost like 2 games. Igor is starting tonight for the Rangers. So, I mean, do I think it's going to be a blowout tonight? No. I think every game really against the Capitals have been, very defensive games for the Rangers at least. There was a couple games, where it was like 2-1, I believe, or, 3-2 or something like that. So it was always very tight, defensive games. Tonight, maybe we'll see it happen. I have no idea. I would bet to see it being another defensive game, even with all of those players out. But I think this is a must-win for the Rangers.
Yeah, I could see that definitely being the case. And I actually want to get your opinion on this quickly. I mean, I know that we mentioned that the Rangers have had a lot of success against the Washington Capitals earlier this season. Is there a particular reason that you think the Rangers have had so much success? I mean, as a Stanley Cup contender, right, in the Washington Capitals in this case, there always seems to be a team that they could be miles out of the playoffs, and yet they still give you trouble every time that you play them. That seems to be, like, the Rangers seem to be kind of a thorn in the Capitals' side, if you will, pretty much every time that they get together. Do you know if there's like a particular reason why the Rangers have had so much success against the Capitals?
I think it might be due to the way that the Capitals play and their system. I know Peter Laviolette likes to play a man-to-man type of system, so maybe the Rangers have kind of figured that out. Playing against them the first one or two games, because I feel like a lot of teams don't like to play a man-to-man, type of just. I know teams like to do it on the penalty kill, but Peter Laviolette and his Capitals do it, even strength and power and penalty kill. So I think they've kind of figured out a way, if you can beat at least one player or if you can get one of their players out of position, they'll have a very good shot at scoring or just, playing very good defense. So I think that's probably the reason why they've been doing so good.
Definitely interesting to see things like that because, I mean, as an Islander fan anyway, you would expect teams like the Islanders to be able to handle the Capitals more than the Rangers would because, I mean, if we're going to point out the obvious, the Islanders are higher in the standings, and that just hasn't been the case. I don't know why the Islanders have struggled against the Capitals. They've struggled against every playoff team, if I'm being quite frank with you. But I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something to see the Rangers having so much success against a team that a lot of teams in the East Division have had a tough time beating. So, but we're going to move on here. And we're going to move on to something that I think is kind of like uncharted territory for Rangers fans, at least in this new era. Kind of in like the David Quinn era, I should say. Lately, I mean, I think the Rangers have been known. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Rangers have been known for their goal scoring and their ability to be able to score kind of at will. I mean, obviously led by Panarin and Zibanejad up front, and then by Adam Fox on the back end. I think the Rangers are really becoming a team that kind of drives their play based on their offensive ability. I mean, would you say you would say that's the case, right?
I would say so.
So, I mean, it must have come as a shock to you when the Islanders shut the Rangers out two times in a row. That doesn't happen a lot in hockey, and I mean, unfortunately, I've seen it happen quite a bit with the Islanders, but the Islanders also struggle to score goals, I mean, pretty heavily, I would say. The Rangers, that's not the problem. The Rangers seem to be able to score pretty much at will at sometimes. I mean, like going back, I don't know, a few months anyway, we saw them put up 7 goals in a period against the Philadelphia Flyers. And now, you go 6 periods without putting one in. I mean, are the Rangers doubting themselves right now, do you think? Or what do you say? What would you say the problem is with the Rangers right now?
I don't even think it's their overall game. I just think it's against the Islanders. We've seen all year basically they haven't been able to score a lot against the Islanders. They've been shut out 4 times against Varlamov this year, I believe. It was the Islanders. So, and I think every other team that they've played, they haven't been shut out. The only team that has shut them out has been the Islanders. So I think the question is they need to what they need to find to do to score against the Islanders. And honestly, I don't know. The Islanders have a very good defensive system. Barry Trotz obviously helping that in such a very, very big way. Obviously, you mentioned guys like Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulak, Scott Mayfield, Nick Leddy, Andy Green, and all those other defensemen who are basically most of them are shut down defensemen.
Don't forget Isles legend Braden Coburn, of course.
Has he even played a game?
He's played like 2 or 3, I think. But he's an Isles legend.
But yeah, I mean, they just gotta. I mean, thank God they're not playing the Islanders anymore this season. I don't want to see them get shut out anymore. But yeah, I think the real question is what they need to do to score against the Islanders. And honestly, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what to do either because there have been a lot of chances where I think the Rangers could have scored. I mean, they definitely had some grade A chances over these last 2 games, but I don't know if it's just Varlamov was up to the task on every shot that he faced, or maybe the Rangers kind of hesitated a little bit because, maybe they were just trying to throw Varley off a little bit whenever they shot. But I don't know. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Rangers have gotten shut out in back-to-back games. I mean, even going back to when they were like a legitimate Stanley Cup contender in the early to mid 2010s. I mean, I don't know if you remember the last time they got shut out back-to-back, but I mean, again, I I don't blame you if you don't, because again, it doesn't happen a lot in hockey. So I mean,
Not even like with the Rangers, just at any team in general. You don't see that happen a lot.
exactly. That's why it's such a big story. Whenever I know, like NHL Network, they make it a big deal whenever teams don't score in back-to-back games, and it is. I mean, it's a big deal because hockey, you're supposed to be able to put in. I would say league average is probably 3 or 4 goals a game. Obviously
Say
there
so.
again, yeah. I mean, there are teams that put in a little more and a little less, given on uh, if they run into a hot goalie or just how good their offense is in general. But I mean, this is surprising to say the least. I would think they break the shutout, the goalless streak, I should say, tonight against the Washington Capitals. If they don't, I mean,
If they don't, you probably won't see me for a while.
I can't even imagine. I wouldn't know what to do at that point. I'm not trying to. I don't want to. I'm not rubbing it in at all. I don't feel like I
Yeah,
am,
no.
but I don't know. If you had to put an over under, do you think not an over under, but like flip a coin? I guess. Do you think the Rangers? Do you think the Rangers score tonight, Andrew? You think they score one?
If they don't, I'll be a very, very angry camper. But yes, I think they do.
It'll go down to like the final minute. And it'll be like with like 50 seconds left in the game, and they'll finally score one.
If even if that happened, I would be very upset with the Rangers.
I actually want to get your thoughts on one last thing here, and I know that you're a pretty big disapproval guy of David Quinn and how he coaches and how he is as a coach. And I've actually seen a rumor lately that I don't even think the seat is hot right now for David Quinn. I don't think he's under any sort of pressure to, it's not like he has to win games or else he's fired or anything. I would think personally that if this starts to stretch into next season and the Rangers start off a little bit slow and they aren't in the playoffs by, I would give it around Christmas time, because they're trying to do a normal schedule for next season. So I'll say Christmas time. If the Rangers aren't in the playoffs by then, I think the seat starts to warm up a little bit. I don't think he actually gets fired until, I would say, like next off season or beyond. What do you think when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned that I'm not a big fan of David Quinn. Recently, he's been okay. I'll be honest, nothing too bad, but I mean, it's happened the past 2 years, with him as coach. This year and last year, getting off to a slow start and, heating up at the end of the season and, obviously both times missing the playoffs. If they never got off to a slow start in the beginning of the season, they would be playoff teams. So, I mean, I think if it happens again next year, you mentioned, around Christmas time, I think it's time to just give him the boot at that point, because if they're not going to be doing well with him at the beginning of the year, then I don't see, any reason why they should keep him.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the seat should be at least a little bit warm. I think, I don't know. See, I go back and forth whenever I hear, like, I know obviously you and a couple of other, of our Ranger fan friends anyway, go back and forth like, oh, I think they should fire David Quinn. Some of us think they shouldn't. I don't know what to think when it comes to stuff like that, because I don't think David Quinn has obviously achieved the goal of making the playoffs. I think every team's goal is to make the playoffs regardless of where you are in the standings. For others, it might not be as high up on the list, given, like for the Rangers, for example, we mentioned before that they have such a young team that you're just trying to get them to play meaningful regular season games down the stretch. And here's the thing, though, that I'm going to get into a little bit, and I just want to get your thoughts quickly on this. I don't think that David Quinn is necessarily like the type of I don't know how to say it. Like, I think David Quinn is the type of coach that the Rangers need right now. And when I say that, I'm really pointing to the fact that he coached college hockey with I believe it's either BU or BC.
BU.
It was BU. Okay. Yeah. So again, he was a college coach for a long time. He knows how to, get the best out of younger players. I mean, I would imagine anyway that this is the coach that the Rangers wanted to run with, at least for right now. You wait until Adam Fox, Alexei Lafreniere, Capo Caco, even guys like Morgan Barron and Vitaly Kravtsov, who again made their debuts fairly recently. You wait until they get a couple of years under their belt and the Rangers really start to build an expectation to be a winner. That's when you give a guy like Quinn the boot, and then you hire a guy who, is expected to win in the playoffs, who has a resume of winning in the postseason to get the Rangers to where they need to be.
Yeah, I agree with you saying that. I think Quinn is the coach they need right now. Again, I think next year is the make or break season, for David Quinn. You gave you guys about 4 years to develop. Obviously, this rebuild, if you would say, has gone very, very good and, very, very quick for the Rangers. So, I mean, I would personally give him 1 more year. And if nothing happens, then I would just say give him the boot.
I guess we'll see what happens at that point. By the way, before we get on to our next topic, we do have some updates from MSG on the ice right now. Ovechkin and Carlson are both on the ice for warm-ups, so assuming that they will play tonight. Justin Schultz is not out there for the Capitals, so that's something to look into a little bit. He's apparently day-to-day with a lower body injury, so that's something that at least should be looked into, at least for tonight anyway. So moving on now, we're gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about the Boston Bruins, who have the potential to clinch a playoff spot tonight against the New Jersey Devils. And the Bruins have been they've been an interesting team pretty much all season, because at certain times it's looked like they were a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. At other times it's looked like they should barely deserve to make the playoffs. And now it finally looks like they've kind of found their mojo. They've really gotten it, their act together in their last 10 games, going 8-2. With this Bruins team, right? I mean, we're looking at mainly in Taylor Hall. Obviously, he's provided quite a bit of a scoring boost. With that Bruins second line. How far do you see the Bruins going in the playoffs if they make it? They should make it, but
I mean, I think their ceiling is Stanley Cup champions, and I think their floor is probably second round. I mean, I even though they're most likely going to be the 4th seed, they're either going to be a 4th or 3rd seed. They will probably have to play against the Penguins or the Capitals, but I think they could definitely beat them. I think in this past month they've probably been one of the best teams, at least in the East Division. I'm not going to say in the league because there's teams like Vegas and Colorado who have just been insane. But I think they've been one of the best teams in the East Division this season, or at least in the past month or so. So with the addition of Taylor Hall, I think their offense has really boosted. I think Hall is a type of player that, they kind of needed and, fits their system very well. Him and David Krejci have just been like bread and butter. They've been very good line mates and stuff like that. And, I think they could definitely make it far into the playoffs.
I would agree. I also think it's like, I wouldn't want to play this Bruins team in the first round, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I feel like the Bruins are more of a threat to serve as a potential upset than maybe the Islanders are. Because, I mean, I feel like with this Bruins team, you're looking at the fact that they're finishing 4th in the standings and you're thinking, okay, maybe this is a bit of a weaker team. Maybe we can kind of, I don't want to say take over the game, but I mean, kind of dominate them on both sides of the puck. And that's not the case. Boston plays a strong game on the defensive side of the puck, obviously headlined by Patrice Bergeron and how good he is as a centerman defensively. The Bruins can also score a lot of goals. They're a team that has a unique combination that when they want to turn it on and score goals, they can score as many as, I would say, 7 or 8 a night. And then, on the defensive end of the puck, they can play those 1-0, 2-1, like close defensive games as well. So this is a Bruins team that personally I wouldn't want to run into in the postseason, but I don't know. I mean, let me just say this right now. This is going to be a fun matchup for whoever takes on the Bruins, because they're set to either play the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Washington Capitals, which, I mean, in a regular season, this would be like the matchup of the powerhouses. So this would definitely be an entertaining matchup to see in the regular season. And again, the Bruins taking on the New Jersey Devils at 7 p.m. So we'll see not only where the fate of the Bruins playoff hopes lie, but where the Rangers lie as well, because the Rangers as a team and the fans alike are going to be paying attention a lot to that Rangers versus Devils game. I don't think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to the Islanders Sabre game though, because the Islanders have already clinched, the Sabres are already out, and with the Sabres out of the lineup, out of the playoff picture, I should say. Andrew, they're making a change in the crease in terms of who they're starting tonight.
Yeah, Michael Hausauer is set to make his NHL debut. I believe he is 28 years old. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. He is 28 years old. And he's basically been in the ECHL his entire career. You know, he's played a little bit in the AHL, nothing really crazy. But I mean, in his most recent year in the ECHL, 16 wins, 5 losses, 5 overtime losses, 2.27 goals against average, and a .902 save percentage. So he's not awful. It's not, he's probably considered one of the better goalies, I would say, in the ECHL. But obviously, we all know an ECHL to the NHL, step that's a huge step. So I mean, he's been playing in the ECHL for 7 seasons now, starting in, let's see, where was it? Starting in 2012-2013 season. That was his first year in the ECHL. So as I mentioned before, he's basically been an ECHL, player for his entire career. Finally making his NHL debut, with the Sabres tonight. So who knows? We'll see how it goes. I know you'll be watching the game, so.
I will be watching the game, and I actually did a little bit of research on. I think his name's Hauser, Michael Hauser.
Hauser, okay.
And he was actually born with a bilateral club feet, which I mean, if you don't know what that is, just look it up. I mean, it's something that I think that he's very courageous for being able to overcome, and I don't think a lot of I know he had a lot of surgeries when he was just a young kid, and I don't think a lot of doctors expected him to be able to walk again, let alone being able to stop 100-mile-an-hour slap shots. So this is definitely a cool story to see. And I mean, I'm wishing him all the best in his NHL career. Maybe not tonight. Maybe I want the Islanders to pick up 2 points, of course. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Even if the Islanders do lose, I'm not gonna be pissed, because this will be a good story, especially since since it would be his first NHL win in his NHL debut. So definitely would be exciting to see that. I hope it doesn't happen against the Islanders, but well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of injuries, Andrew, Tyler Seguin has been out of the Dallas lineup for a very, very long time. Tonight, though, it looks like he's finally going to draw back into the Dallas Stars lineup.
Yeah, no, he's set to make his season debut against the Florida Panthers. Obviously, you don't want to face against, the Panthers this year in his season debut, so who knows how well it's going to go for him. But, I mean, it's going to be his first game since Game 6 of the 2020 Stanley Cup Finals, and it's been 225 days since he's played in the NHL. So I believe, if you do the math on that, I believe it's over 6 months. I'm not 100% sure. Again, don't quote me on it, but I mean, Seguin went through 2 surgeries during those dates. He didn't have the best season, best playoff season, I should say, last season. 2 goals, 11 assists for 13 points in 26 games. So obviously, but I mean, he was dealing with a lot of injuries. So I mean, I really can't blame him for that. But Dallas currently sits 3 points out of the playoff spot behind Nashville for the 4th spot. So they're hoping that he can make an impact to the team, trying to make that 4th playoff spot, trying to go to the Stanley Cup Finals again, even though I doubt it'll happen because they're going to either have to play one of Carolina, Tampa, or Florida, which have probably been one of the 3 best teams in the league. And Dallas Stars are they do have 1 game on hand against Nashville. So, I mean, anything can happen. I don't think it will happen. I don't think Seguin can make that much of an impact immediately. I believe they only have 5 games left. So, but I mean, anything can happen.
That is true. We've definitely seen weirder things happen in the NHL. And before we move on here, I actually have an update on the Islanders and their warm-up situation. J.G. Pageau and Oliver Wahlstrom are both not on the ice for the Islanders tonight. Travis Zajac and Michael Del Cole are, so we will see what happens with that. I think Wallstrom's just out because he is. He's just being scratched. I think Paggio might be out with a little bit of an injury, so we'll see what happens there. I know he took a hit from, I believe it was Morgan Barron in the Saturday night game with the Islanders and the Rangers. So we'll see what happens with that. That's something to keep an eye on if you're an Islander fan. Moving on here, right? Patty Laine was traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets with the expectation of scoring a lot of goals for a Jackets team that, let's be honest, I mean, they've struggled offensively. I think they're a lot like the Islanders in terms of their defensive prowess, and I think their mindset to play team defense kind of takes away from their ability to score goals, hence bringing in Patrick Laine. Well, it hasn't worked out to say the least. And now Patrick Laine is going to be playing on the fourth line for the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Andrew, I mean, this is just painful to see. As a Laine fan, I mean, this is painful to see Laine being mismanaged this bad by a team that was really expected to be able to utilize him in a great way.
Yeah, I mean, Laine, second overall pick in the 2016 NHL draft, right after Austin Matthews. So obviously, there was, a lot of, hype around Patrick Laine, and there was to be. In his first couple seasons, he basically looked unstoppable. He looked like he was about to be the next Alex Ovechkin, just the way he was playing. I forget how many goals he scored. I'm trying to look it up right now in this rookie season. But, I mean, just this past season with, the Blue Jackets has not been good. In his first year, he scored 36 goals, 28 assists for 64 points in 73 games. And this season, 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points. Those are all career lows, and plus minus as well. He's a minus 26. So, I mean, I know you are not a huge fan of the Tortorella situation. So, do you think they will fire him in the offseason? Or I know you think they should fire him, but do you think they will fire him?
If I'm being honest, yeah, I do. I think the expectation for the Blue Jackets was to qualify for the playoffs, especially, going back a few years. I know that they only won, I think, one playoff series, and that being against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But in the bubble, they just looked like a different team. And I don't know if that was because Tampa had kind of like a vengeance for what had happened the year before, or maybe the Jackets just weren't up to their game or anything. I mean, they barely got out of the qualifiers against the Maple Leafs, so that very well could be the situation. I just think it's time for a change behind the bench. I don't think Tortorella has control of that locker room anymore, and I think it's showing. I don't think the Blue Jackets are this bad of a team, and I think that under the right coach, I think the Blue Jackets could be a very, very good team, but I don't think Tortorella is that guy. I do want to hear your thoughts on this, though. What do you think about a potential Torts and Rangers reunion? Do you think that could be in the cards in the near future?
No.
You don't want it to be? You just don't want it to happen?
Both. Like, if you think about it, we see, what's happening with the Blue Jackets now with Tortorella, obviously him benching his players and stuff. And, I feel like Tortorella would not be good with the young players with the Rangers. I feel like he would be like, okay, I'm going to give you 5 games. If you're not going to do good, you're not on my team. And that's not what the Rangers need. They need to develop their players. Even Quinn's basically kind of doing the same stuff. Obviously not as bad as Tortorella, but I remember it was in the middle of the season, Rangers were kind of starting to pick it up a little bit. And after every shift, Quinn was changing lines. And me and my dad, we were just like, what are you doing? Like, this is not how you build chemistry when you're putting Lafreniere, let's start him on the first line. Oh, he doesn't have a good first shift in the game. Let's put him down to the fourth line and play him for 3 minutes the rest of the game. I feel like Torts would basically do the exact same thing if he was back with the Rangers. So I would not want to see him back with the Rangers.
I would agree with that. And I mean, even talking about the youth that he's dealt with, obviously you just mentioned guys like Lafreniere and Kakko and, how he would handle guys like that. I mean, I think he mismanaged Pierre-Luc Dubois terribly. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois was an amazing player with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And, I'm going to be completely honest. During the last few games that Dubois was a Blue Jacket, I don't think he wanted to be there anymore. And I know this hasn't come out publicly yet, but I have a feeling that that was to do with kind of, a disagreement, I should say, with John Tortorella. And we're
Had
seeing
to
it
be.
right now. It had to have been. I mean, like, I don't see any other reason that a player like that, especially a guy as young as Dubois, would just randomly want out of Columbus. A team that had made the playoffs in, I mean, let's see, he was a rookie in, I think, 16, 17, Dubois was. So, I mean, they had qualified for the playoffs all 4 years of his NHL career. So I don't see, it's not like the Jackets didn't have a good place in the standings or anything. It's not like they weren't a good team. So I don't know. I think it's time for the Columbus Blue Jackets to get rid of John Tortorella. But Blue Jackets fans, if any of you are out there listening, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. So go ahead, leave us a comment down below wherever you may be watching. And yeah, I mean, we're gonna move on here to kind of a happier note. To a few young players actually making quite a bit of an impact. And first off, Cole Caulfield has been a player that you and I have been paying attention to quite a bit. And he scored his first NHL goal on Saturday night. What better way to score it than not only on a Saturday night being hockey night in Canada, but he scored an overtime winner to seal the deal for the Montreal Canadiens. So we're going to go ahead and play this goal back. And Andrew, if you want to put on your analyst cap here, kind of give us what happened here in this Caulfield play.
Yeah, no, it was an overall really nice goal. We see Petrie here coming into the zone, and then we just see Caulfield from the right, getting right past Tim Stützle, using his speed and, basically his little size, just to get right around him. And, basically Petrie putting it on a dish for him. I'm sure Petrie was looking for him, probably 99% of that overtime, just to get him his first NHL goal. But yeah, it was a nice goal overall. I don't know if we're going to see it again. We probably will. But yeah, as you mentioned before, Caulfield's been a player, me and you have been, looking at, the past couple of years, with the U.S., National Development Program, him winning, the gold medal this past year with, Team USA against Team Canada. And, we're going to see it right here again. Caulfield on the left, just speeding past Tim Stützle. No one seeing him. And there's Petrie just putting it on a dish, Petrie head up all the way, nice little move to the backhand, forehand, and then, Caulfield just putting it right in.
That's a nice play there, and it's nice to see a kid who is known to been, able to score a ton of goals to finally get on the board. And what better way to do it than with an overtime winner to, I believe that goal also eliminated Ottawa from playoff contention. So I'm sure that Cole Caulfield has a special place in the hearts of Ottawa Senators fans. We actually had one more first NHL goal to get to, and this was from another 2019 first-round draft pick, Toby Bjornfot of the Los Angeles Kings. We're going to go ahead and mute this here so you're not drowned in audio. Man, Andrew, this was a nice way to score your first goal. Forget Caulfield in overtime. Imagine scoring a goal to make it 6-2 after you're down by 5.
Yeah, it was a nice goal there. Nice little one-timer from I forget what it's Bjornfot, Fort, whatever. I'm not 100% sure. I'll be honest. I didn't know who this guy was until we talked about it before. But it was a nice little pass by Kempe and just a well-placed shot, high glove side on Ryan Miller there, for his first NHL goal, rocking the number 30. Oh, is that 33? I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, 33. One of my favorite numbers to always wear. So, Tobias Bjornfot. Yeah, sure. Whatever. That's how you say his name. If he's watching, I'm sorry. But yeah, it was a nice goal, nice little one-timer. One-timer is kind of one of my favorite goals to see, especially in the NHL, just, because we can see many players rocket it. So it was nice to see his first goal come from a one-timer.
I would agree. And another thing actually happened in that game between the Kings and the Ducks. It might not have seemed very significant, but the Ducks managed to win that game 6-2. And Ryan Miller, that was the final home game of his NHL career. Andrew, a guy like Ryan Miller, he might not have the Stanley Cup to back it up, but in my opinion, I think this guy is a lock for the Hockey Hall of Fame. What do you think?
100%. I would agree with you 7 out of 7 days a week. I believe he has the most wins as an American goalie of all time. Jonathan Quick will probably catch up to him maybe in his career. He did win one Vezina with Buffalo in 09, 10. But yeah, Ryan Miller, just what a guy, what a goalie. You know, basically played his heart out for every single team he's played for. He has, I believe, 391 wins, 289 losses, and 87 overtime losses, and a career save percentage of .914 and a goals against average of 2.63 and 44 career shutouts. So yeah, he's basically a lock for the Hall of Fame in my opinion. One actually thing I didn't know is that he played for St. Louis for 1 year. I don't know if you knew about that.
I actually did know about that, and I remember it only because uh, Jonathan Toews scored a breakaway goal in I think Game 5 of that series, and it was in overtime, and he managed to slip it by Ryan Miller. Now, I don't know how I can remember that, but I can't remember anything that has to do with school. I can remember useless stuff like that, but I can't when it comes to stuff that actually matters or stuff that I have to actually pay attention to. I'm like the worst at it. So
No, that happens to me all the time. Whenever me and my family were watching hockey games or just like old hockey games, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that play. This happens, this happens, this happens, and then the exact same thing happens. And my mom's like, so you can remember that, but you can't do your grades in school. I'm like, nope.
I would agree with that. I'm actually just editing something really quick because Oliver Wahlstrom is in the lineup. So yeah, I mean that's something for the Islanders. Speaking of the Islanders, I mean, granted, we were talking about them making the playoffs. We were talking about Ottawa being eliminated. We have quite a few playoff scenarios to get through tonight. So obviously, we mentioned Boston will clinch a playoff spot today if they get at least 1 point against the Devils, or if the Capitals beat the Rangers in any fashion. The Rangers will be eliminated from the postseason. Basically, the same scenario, just flipped. Edmonton can actually clinch a playoff spot if they get at least 1 point against the Vancouver Canucks. So that's one game that I'm sure Edmonton Oilers fans will be paying attention to, I should say. Chicago Blackhawks will be eliminated today if either they lose to Carolina in regulation, if they get 1 point and Nashville gets at least 1 point against the Blue Jackets, or if they win in overtime or a shootout and Nashville wins, or if Nashville beats Columbus in regulation. So there's a lot to unpack there, but 4 different scenarios for the Blackhawks to be eliminated from contention today. And then we got the San Jose Sharks could be eliminated from playoff contention if they take fewer points from their game against Colorado than the Blues do against the Ducks. So there's a lot to unpack here, but at the end of the night, we will know more about who is eliminated and who is going to clinch a playoff spot. Andrew, before we wrap it up here, we do have a little bit of an update. Do you have the 3 stars of the week by any chance that you want to?
I do have the 3 stars of the week. So coming in with the first star of the week, former Islander goaltender Thomas Greiss, 1-0-1 with 2 shutouts. Detroit hasn't been that great this year, but I mean, seeing Thomas and Thomas Greiss having not that great of a year. So seeing him get 2 shutouts, good feeling for him. Probably hasn't had that much happy feelings this year in Detroit, but that's a positive note. Number 2 star Connor McDavid, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in 4 games. Nothing really you can say much about that man. He's obviously the best player in the NHL. Do you think he's going to get 100 points this season?
Honestly, why not? Why not? I mean, I think he's at 87 or 88 points, and he's still got, I don't know, 6 or 7 games to go. The guy's averaged, I mean, we were talking about the other day, he's put up 14 points in 14 periods. Not even games. Periods. That is incredible. I'm all for Connor McDavid putting up 100 points, and you got to wonder if this was a regular 82-game stretch, how many points that he would actually put up. I think we could see him putting up close to 150 if this was an 82-game stretch, which is insane to even think about. But
yeah, so that would be very, very interesting to see. And then the 3rd star of the week, New York Islanders goaltender Semyon Varlamov, going 2-0 with 2 shutouts, both against the Rangers. We mentioned it before. He's just been a beast against the Rangers this year. I believe he has 4 shutouts against the Rangers this year. So, I really can't say much about it. And then the NHL Stars of the Month. I don't know if you have the little banner for it or not. But
here we go.
There you go. For the East Division, we have Brad Marchand. For the North Division, Austin Matthews. The West Division, Nathan McKinnon. The Central Division, Sebastian Aho. And then the Rookie of the Month, Jason Robertson. So even though Robertson won this month, do you still have Kirill Kaprizov as your Calder winner?
I do. Yeah. I think Robertson's made the race a little closer than a lot of people were expecting it to be. But if you're looking at the impact that Kirill Kaprizov has had on the Minnesota Wild, he's making this team a lot more entertaining to watch than I think a lot of people have had them in the past. And that's not easy for any player to do, let alone a player who is in his rookie season, regardless of what people say about, whether or not he's played in the KHL. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind Robertson as a player. I pay attention to Kaprizov a lot more, so maybe I'm a little bit biased with that. But I do still have Kaprizov as my Calder winner.
All right, so I think that pretty much wraps episode 9 up. Again, you mentioned before early in the episode, I can't believe we're already 9 episodes in. It feels like we just started this, like not too long ago. But I'm happy, to be doing this. Going to be doing this in the future. You mentioned that we're probably going to be having a couple people on, for the playoff episodes. Making a fool of ourselves, trying to make playoff predictions. But we'll save that for the future.
It's always fun to make ourselves look like complete imbeciles on live stream. So,
Yep.
But if you guys want to see us do that in the near future, we're planning something right now, so it's in the works. The only thing we're kind of unsure of is when the season is actually set to end, because I know that there's been a lot of rescheduling with the North Division. So we want to make sure we get it as close to the end of the regular season / start of playoffs as possible. So yeah, I mean, we will definitely keep you guys updated on that. We definitely want as many of you there as possible. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting ready for the playoffs, man. It's gonna be a fun end to the NHL season, and 14 games, I believe, on tap for tonight, if I have that right. So I mean, and there's a lot of 7 p.m. puck drops, so those games should be getting underway pretty much any minute now. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's gonna do it for us. So. For Andrew Marisi, I'm Carter Bentavenga. That was episode 9 of the 2-on-0 Hockey Show. We will see you guys for the big episode 10 on Wednesday night. Good night, everyone.